one, there's some drama going on with Rogers. So Edward Rogers, who was the son of Ted Rogers, who founded the company, which again, Canadians know, he was ousted as the chair of the board. He still has an executive position, but he's no longer the board chair. Okay, and this is just in the last week or so. Look, this is some big drama. So he responded by using his capacity as whatever other executive he is, plus as part of the family that controls most of the voting shares. He said, I'm just going to fire the whole board and bring in a new board, which he has not been able to do, but this is what he wants to do. And you guys are going to pick up on a theme. So this is the drama that's going on. And like real quick, one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to fire another executive named Joe Natale. And Joe Natale did not know that Edward Rogers wanted to fire him. And Joe Natale, it gets a call one day. It basically, Edward Rogers butt dials Joe Natale. So Joe Natale picks up the phone thinking it's Edward Rogers wanting to talk to him. It's Edward Rogers talking to somebody else about firing Joe Natale. Right. So this is what we're dealing with. So that's the context. So in a context like this now, everybody who has like an Edward Rogers did me wrong story, they're all coming out with them. Okay, so the one that hits the internet Monday morning, and you guys are asking me, what does this have to do with sports? It has a lot to do with sports. This company owns the Blue Jays. They own 37.5% of the Maple Leafs and of the Raptors, of whom Masai Ujiri was the president, and he was negotiating for a new contract this past summer. Now here's the lead from the story from Christine Dobby and Doug Smith Monday morning. Former Rogers chair Edward Rogers actively fought plans to keep Masai Ujiri as head of the Toronto Raptors this summer, saying he was not worth the amount offered, and then tried to extract an extraordinary benefit for his own company. The Star has learned. Let's stop there. Megan McPeak, you're our basketball expert. Real quick, like just run down what Masai Ujiri has done for this team on and off the court, and like what you lose if you let someone that good, just on and off the court, stick to sports, what you lose if you let someone like that walk out the door.
I think the most obvious one, the elephant in the room, if you will, is the 2019 championship run. But as well, too, like you think of all his philanthropy that he does off the court through Giants of Africa. I know that's not specifically in Canada, but a lot of that ties into him utilizing and working with people within MLSE and the Raptors organization are a lot of the people that help him on the Giants of Africa trips that he takes. You'll see a lot of the coaches go with him on these camp trips when they go to different countries within Africa and do the camps. So kind of ties in with the basketball in that sense, with utilizing the people within the organization with his philanthropy work and everything that he does there. So 2019 championship, the philanthropy work, how to get to the championship. Obviously, you know, the biggest trade in Raptors history on the course to the championship that cut a lot of people deep. The Kawhi and DeMar DeRozan trade. We also know there were other factors that went into that trade, but that was the two biggest names. So you have the 2019 championship and you have Kawhi Leonard. You also have Danny Green with what he brought to the team in that championship run with the defense, being able to knock down huge shots and huge timely shots. Serge Ibaka and what he was able to bring to the team. Allowing Fred VanVleet to grow into Fred VanVleet. Kyle Lowry being Kyle Lowry, helping him turn into the Kyle Lowry that we know, who a lot of people have crowned the GOAT, if you will, for those that don't know, greatest rapper of all time. As well, too, Pascal Siakam, drafting him. The way he drafts guys that when you're looking at possibly other teams' draft boards, they might not be on the draft board in the same position that Masai and Bobby Webster will have, or at all. So that's just, if you will, the highlight tape for Masai Ujiri and what he does. And all of that encompasses the heels to get to a 2019 championship and upset the Golden State Warriors.
The other thing Masai Ujiri did is he said F Brooklyn before that playoff game, in which, okay, it's only 2 words, but understand that, like, in terms of like a statement of civic pride, right? And an investment in the franchise. And also the idea that you're not scared to make enemies and like you will pay a fine. Like, so
you would think Masai is Canadian.
Yes.
The way he wrote,
which means he's part of the fabric of the franchise.
You would think
right.
He's Canadian. Yeah.
All right. So let me before I throw to you, Dave, let me run down another scenario involving Edward Rogers, because again, the Rogers family, Rogers Communications, Rogers Media owns the Blue Jays. Their longtime president, Paul Beeston, this is probably 2014 or 15. You guys can fact check me on this, but Edward Rogers decided he wanted to get rid of Paul Beeston. Didn't tell Paul Beeston this. He decided he wanted to hire Ken Williams away from the Chicago White Sox. So Ed Rogers calls Jerry Reinsdorf over at the White Sox and says, hey, I want to fire Beeston and hire your guy, Ken Williams. To which Reinsdorf says, cool, man. Let me call you back. Click. And then he picks up the phone and calls his really good friend, Paul Beeston, and says, hey, man, I just got a call from your boss. He's trying to fire you. And so naturally, this whole thing falls apart. But this is the level of like ownership, strategy, and acumen we're dealing with. And the second highlight, and here I'm about to throw to you, Dave, from this story, because it's about getting back to the story itself, it's about Ed Rogers not thinking Masai Ujiri is worth $15 million a year, even though franchise valuation increased by whatever percent it did, but like much faster than the rest of the league. Even though, as Megan pointed out, there's like also hardware. There are championship banners up in there, but Edward Rogers decides this guy's not worth the money. Well, why not? Looks like there's some intangibles. Dave, here's from the story. Let me find it. Give me one. Oh, here we go. Rogers said the Raptors president, Ujiri, was arrogant, according to sources, arriving with bodyguards, and that he failed to share his vision for the team. Dave's iron. I do it or you do it? The word arrogant.
Yeah. We know what that means. And I think we've reached a point in our popular culture where, like 20 years ago, if someone had said, oh, he's arrogant, and then another white person said, oh, no, they're articulate. Then 20 years ago, you would say, wait a minute, take a step back. Those words are very racially loaded, and you should think before you speak. 20 years now, it's 2021. If you don't know by now what you're actually saying, when you say words like arrogant or, oh, he's very articulate, these are things that are now such common parlance in the culture. Ed Rogers knows exactly what he's doing and knows exactly what he's saying. From Masai's position, he didn't show up with a bunch of bodyguards, it's worth saying. He showed up with a damn driver and somebody doing like a
videographer,
non-profit documentary.
What's the bodyguard doing with a video camera?
It was ridiculous.
Strangest bodyguard I've ever seen.
He had a non-profit videographer and you had a driver. And also, Masai Ujiri was apparently gobsmacked at the thought that he didn't share a vision for the team, which makes me find Ed Rogers' whole perspective on this to be very much in doubt. The only thing I would say is, Chris Hayes wrote a great book called Twilight of the Elites, and its thesis was that with each successive generation, the people who we've always looked to as the minders of society, the wealthy, the politicians, as the generations go on, their children become lesser and lesser versions of the original. And in Ed Rogers, I think you see this. When you have people born on third base and think they hit a triple, they tend to be arrogant themselves and say and do things that are not in the best interest of the franchise. I wish Carlos Rogers was in charge of the Toronto Raptors, not Ed Rogers. I wish Mr. Rogers was in charge. Because the kinds of decisions being made, if you're willing to give Masai Ujiri the stiff arm after all we've seen over the last couple of years, you really don't belong in any position of authority of an NBA franchise.
Well, one of the things we know before Edward Rogers cleaned up his Twitter feed, one of the things we knew about him was that he is an admirer of Donald Trump. He has put in his time at Mar-a-Lago. He used to, before he cleaned up his Twitter feed, he would tweet photos of himself with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, right? And all of these machinations seem very Trumpian. You don't really have a plan. Somebody rubs you the wrong way or questions your authority. And asks you, what's your plan? Oh, fire him, fire her, hire a bunch of people who are going to be loyal to me, whether or not they know how to do the job. And the other thing we know about Masai Ujiri is that he is the man that brought Barack Obama into Scotiabank Arena or Air Canada Center. I can't remember which name it had at the time during the 2019 NBA Finals. And so I don't know if I'm not going to say that there's a direct connection, but what we do know is that if you have one guy in power who is a good friend of Barack Obama's and another guy in power who admires Donald Trump and appears to be trying to run his organization the way Donald Trump ran the United States, the possibility of conflict is ripe and it's always there. But Masai Ujiri is still on his job. Edward Rogers is still trying to hang on to his first job. So there we go.